Welcome to everybody attending today, and for those that watch after the fact online. Over the next weeks and months to come, we're going to be breaking down Maria's Halakah. Halakah means a walk or a way of a Jewish people. And every a Rav is a Jewish master, and a Rav was the precedent or the preceding type of Jewish master before there were rabbis. So Jesus wasn't a rabbi. Rabbis didn't exist until after the fall of the Second Temple in 70 AD. But Mar Yeshua was a Rav, which means a Jewish master, a Jewish. So we're going to go over his halakha, the different aspects of his halakha, and choose a few verses that highlight that particular spiritual quality that Mar Yeshua would have us develop in ourselves, purify our hearts, so that we can ourselves become a Baranah, and join the heavenly Baranah, both while living and after a transition. I've not picked any of Mar Yeshua's spiritual principles in any particular order, but I choose one each week for what I'm working on in myself. So the first type of spiritual quality that Mar Yeshua would have us work on is non-attachment. And the Hebrew Aramaic word for non-attachment is Kihesh. Kihesh. What is the Halakah of Mar Yeshua? Halakah is the walk or the way of a Jewish Rav. It is a set of spiritual teachings to achieve perfection, to become a Sadi or a Baranah. Mar Yeshua said, Halakani, which means, do my Halakah. Often it's translated merely as, follow me. However, following around a spiritual personage or a thing is not enough. Personality worship is not enough. Believing in a spiritual master is not enough. You have to immerse yourself in the spiritual master's halakha to become shalem, whole, and tam, perfect. A master's halakha, the goal of that halakha is Jesus' famous phrase, be perfect as thy Father in heaven is perfect, which really is, become as thy Abba in the heavens is come. To become whole means that we are no longer fragmented. We're no longer a mind, a body. We are an integrated being that offers itself in the service of the divine and in the service of all humanity. Mar Yeshua had an outer halakha for the masses. He had an inner halakha, which was practiced in conjunction with the outer halakha for those entering the path of maybe postulants or, if you will, or beginners on the spiritual path. He would not only teach them outer good works, but he would also teach them inner work. How to align your mind and your emotions with God. How to change your inner world so you can purify your heart. Purifying the heart, the lave, was a very important part of Mar Yeshua's halakha. To perfect your heart was to become one with God, was to become a Baranah. When one's heart was perfected with goodness, pure love, pure consciousness, what this did was it made us eligible to have God's Malkut, the sovereignty, the rulership of God, awaken in our hearts. And when that truly happens, we become Shalem, we become Tam, we become a Sadi, a righteous, a thing that is right before God. Righteous doesn't mean that you always think you're right. That's how we often interpret it in modern parlance. But to become righteous, or righteous one, a Sadi, that was what the title of Jesus' biological brother, the Sadi. James the just, James the righteous. So when you're righteous, you are merciful, you're compassionate, and those actions of being merciful and compassionate make you right with God, makes your soul right with God. And then there are higher aspects or secret meaning, secret halakha, that help you to raise your consciousness to the oneness of God. It's not that we ever become God, but we become part of the whole of God, consciously. The whole universe is an emanation of God. We are all emanations of God. We all come from that one body that is the Abba, the Heavenly Father, the Divine Mother, and one. And we, whenever we become awakened cells of God's one body, which can also be called the body of Christ. So Kihesh is our first spiritual quality. It's part of Mar Yeshua's inner and outer halakha. Most people will classify it as part of his inner halakha. But Kihesh, non-attachment, is both outer and inner. We can call the outer Kihesh the lower form of Kihesh, and we can call the inner form of Kihesh, or non-attachment, the higher form of Kihesh. But Kihesh, rightly understood, is both an outer practice and an inner practice. And that outer practice should lead to the higher inner practice, the deeper understanding of what non-attachment is. So Kihesh means non-attachment to material things. What constitutes material things? Well, that would be your house, your cars, people, family members, money, your job, the result of your actions and plans, and ultimately your physical body and your personal needs, that which makes you comfortable. These are the material things that we must become non-attached to. In the early days, Kihesh was quite strict. If you remember, there are several instances in the New Testament that I don't cite here, I'll paraphrase. But there is a time whenever a possible newcomer to Mar Yeshuwa, they hear Mar Yeshuwa in the street, talking in public, and he was so lit on fire. And he said, Master, just let me go and do the burial rites for my father. And Mar Yeshuwa said, let the dead bury the dead and follow me. This sounds very harsh, but Mar Yeshuwa was testing the potential disciple to see if he was not attached to family. Because sometimes, unfortunately, it's our very family and loved ones that hinder us from deeply going into the spiritual path, deeply following the halakha of Mar Yeshuwa. Another instance was that another excited young man ran up to Jesus, your disciple. He said, great! Sell everything you have and give it to the poor. And the young rich man walked away. Very sad. He did not become a disciple. So Mar Yeshuwa was saying, she was testing that disciple too. It's more about when Mar Yeshuwa did these extreme outer actions, testing the potential disciple to see if they had any spiritual muster. Were they willing to give up something lower, a lower attachment for something higher, union with God, union with the Abba? If they couldn't give up money, if they couldn't give up attachment to burying a dead body, then Mar Yeshuwa felt they just weren't ready yet. So Kihesh was quite strict in the early days, both in the days when Mar Yeshuwa walked the earth as an apostle, and immediately thereafter. The early Christians, the early Jewish Christians lived communally, and they really did sell everything they had and put all of their resources into one pot to support the whole community. And those that had left were given a share of the whole group, food and shelter and clothing, etc. So Jesus taught a form of communal living, a form of sharing. If you will, it could possibly mirror things like socialism, where you're sharing the greater wealth of the whole community. You kind of level the playing field. And this was meant as an outer part of Maria's to share my abundance with others that don't have enough. And you would share in accordance with what you had. Those that didn't have anything were still accepted. But those that had a lot would pool the resources that everybody in the community could live together and grow together. So this was an aspect of Kihesh back in those days that was very strict. Voluntary poverty was a part of Maria's law, part of his Halakah. Is this type of outer Kihesh still applicable today? I would say not, because most modern megachurches will just rob you. And then those preachers will buy their Mercedes Benz and their 15 mansions. It's not the same thing. So I wouldn't say go out there and sell all you have and give it to some preacher that you don't know. And I will never ask them myself. But what we should do is that we should work on our belief, and we should use our resources to make our lives comfortable. But whatever extra we have, even if it's just a little extra, we can use that to help the poor, the hungry, the elderly, the sick, etc. Just as Maria was taught. My spiritual master said that if you cook 4 potatoes, but you only need to eat 3 potatoes, then you're a thief. You are a thief if you cook 4 potatoes, but you only need to eat 3. Because that 4th potato could have been given to somebody that was starving on the street, and you just stole from the poor. This is the same type of idea. What would be a more proper expression of Kihesh in modern society in this world? Really, Kihesh then and now is the same. The end goal is the same, though the outer expressions may change with the times. And spiritual tradition and spiritual practice must change and evolve with the time. So outer renunciation of material things, which is another definition for Kihesh, was always meant to develop an inner attitude of acceptance. This is why Kihesh, when properly understood, is part of both the outer and the inner thought of liberation. Again, my spiritual master has said that most people in the world, especially in Western society, they don't like the word renunciation. It brings the idea of gold and prosperity, sexual celibacy. Notice that sometimes I wear white robes here, and sometimes I wear regular. That's also a form of Kihesh, in my opinion. A lot of people that are spiritual teachers have certain outer garb, and there's reasons why you wear an outer garb spiritually. But a lot of people wear that to give respect from other people, to create a divide between the laity and the priest, or the laity and the priest, or the laity and the monk. And really, it's not about that. We shouldn't be attached to anything, not even the clothes we wear on our body, or the way we're presented to other people. Everything is an inner reality. So, if I were to walk down the street with priest's garb, I might be treated quite differently. And if I walk down the street, I might be treated, right? So we have to learn to accept what comes to us, how people treat us, what people offer to us or don't offer to us. So renunciation, the better word in the West, my teacher said, to accept things as they are, to accept life as it comes to us, whether life brings us a lot or brings us a little, that we accept what our current situation is, while at the same time working to make it better and more pleasurable. Renunciation is not doom and gloom. It is not self-abnegation. It is not, oh, I'm a dirty, rotten sinner for dirt and dust on my face, and I need to do something to purify myself in some sort of dark way. We have to take care of ourselves. God loves us. He wants us to be comforted. The only thing is that we should be able to understand that if we have enough, if we have more than enough, that we should share that with others. So having outer renunciation should lead to an inner attitude. And that is the attitude that should be developed. That if I have more than enough, I should share. And if I don't even have a red penny to my name, I can at least smile and share an uplifting word with someone in the street, someone in the bus, somebody at the grocery store. Let your light shine wherever you are. So the real meaning of Kihesh, in my opinion, to this modern age, is to see every your life as an on loan to you from God. The loan must be repaid, given back, whenever the person giving the loan asks for it. So our bodies are ready. When it's time to die, we have to be willing to release it peacefully. Our homes, our cars, our mothers, fathers, our children, we have to learn to see everything as God's. And that if that is to be taken away from us, then we have to accept it. Another attitude for Kihesh or non-attachment is to always give more than you take. If somebody gives you something, give a little bit more. Never accept anything from anybody without giving something back. In the very least, we should say thank you. We should give back an expression of gratitude. But really, we shouldn't accept anything unless we have something to give back. And that was also part of the early Kihesh. If Yeshua, or a great apostle, is giving me a teaching, I should be willing to give something to them. I should be able to make sure that they have a roof over their head, clothes in their body, and food in their belly at least, when they're benefiting me by teaching them. Right? So always give more than you take from life, from people, from your family, from your workmates, etc. Always take a step above. That is a form of renunciation. It's a form of going further than perhaps you're comfortable with. And that is what Kihesh and Nonattachment is about. To go a little bit further than what you're comfortable with giving. Just a step further. Maybe tonight I've done some selfless service. And tonight I really want to watch Netflix and just chill out. But then somebody calls me on the phone and they need help or advice. Am I going to ignore the phone call for my own comfort? Or am I going to go beyond my comfort zone? Give up my rest and my pleasure time so I can help get it to distract. That is a form of money. So it's not always about giving away money. It's about giving away yourself, giving away your time, giving away your effort. Giving away yourself is the biggest gift you can give to God. And ultimately, it's about giving up our egos. The only thing that we can truly give God that He doesn't have is our ego. Right? God is the creator of everything. He owns everything. But what's the one thing God doesn't have? Our ego. Because we think I am separate. Really, everything is one, but when we think I am separate, we're not giving ourselves fully to pure love that is God, that is the Abba. So when we give up ourselves, we give up ourselves in a sacred sacrifice of pure love to others, to the earth, to humanity, ultimately to God, then we're really doing Kihesh. We have to go beyond our comfort. We have to sacrifice a little bit of our comfort. But it doesn't mean that we should give away every red penny so that every thief and false prophet out there can take from you. That's not it. So another form of Kihesh or non-attachment is to have no expectations. Have no expectations of your boss, no expectations of your wife, no expectations of your children. No expectation that anything you do will be recognized. That is Kihesh. So understand that everything is impermanent except for God, your soul, and the relationship between the two, God and your soul. The goal is to become one, a union, a yoking. So that's a goal of Kihesh. We want to give up everything that is impermanent. In life, we tend to put all of our eggs in one basket. We seek permanent joy from impermanent things, people, and places. We need to learn to be non-attached to impermanent things, which is everything in creation except for God and your soul. It doesn't mean that you don't appreciate having a great family, a good friend, a great job, a car. Yes, but everything God gives us. But know that those things cannot give you permanent joy. So don't focus on that as your priority. The one thing that can give permanent joy, that deserves all of our attachment, focus, and effort, God. However you choose to define that. Now for our gospel verses. There's only two of them. The first one is becoming passers-by. And probably one of my most favorite quotes from Maria, and it's found in the Gospel of Thomas, Logan 14. Become passers-by. What does it mean to be a passerby? That you walk by a beautiful flower, but you keep on going. You appreciate that that's a beautiful flower, but you don't stop and you don't pluck the flower and put it in a vase, and you're not sad when it starts to wilt and die. You appreciate that rose right where it is, but you keep on moving. Be a visitor on this earth, but do not become attached to this earth. So become a passerby means to know that you're going to die someday. That everything around you, you're going to pass it up. You're going to transcend it, whether you like it or not, in the process of transition or death. So see this body as a rented apartment. Any day we can become evicted. So be comfortable with moving on to it. Anything in life that captures our attention, people, places, or things, appreciate it, but be willing to keep on moving on. Become a passerby. Don't become attached to the scenery. Appreciate the scenery while you're on the bus or on the airplane, but the bus and the airplane keeps on going. You can't look back. So always move forward. Have a good attitude, and don't depend on anything that you like along the way to give you permanent happiness. Become passersby. The next one is a very famous phrase from Matthew. It's how we'll end our talk when you want the liturgy of the Chalice today. And the verse is from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consume, and where thieves do not break in. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Surface level understanding of this. If you seek the material world, that's where your heart is. And eventually the material world is going to break your heart. Even if we're rich, the perfect wife, the best house, one day we're going to die, and it's all going to be taken away from us. Yeah? It's the truth. If we focus on God and spiritual things, those things never go away. We take them with us. Very important to understand. And again, it's not that you can't enjoy material things. It's not that you can't be happy, have a pleasurable life. We don't need to be silent. All the pictures of the Catholic saints, the tears running down their eyes, God wants us to be happy, and we should rejoice in the good things we have, and we should strive to have good things. We should strive to cultivate, because only when we have more than we need can we really help the poor, help the sick, help the elderly, help vulnerable people. So obviously, having things isn't bad. If you don't have things, how can you give something away to make somebody else's life better? So it's not having material things that is bad. It's whenever we only are focused on just making money, just getting the next raise, competing with our neighbor and getting a better car than him or her. All these very stereotypical things. When we're just focused on the world and money, that's it. That's it. And ultimately in death, we lose it all. But the treasure of heaven is the good karma, the goodness, the pure love that you develop in your heart by having good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. The word treasure, the Hebrew Aramaic word is atzah, treasure. And it's a very much an idiom dating all the way back to Egypt, which is where Judaism cultivated from, was Egyptian religion. But then it was very common to know that the heart, the spiritual heart, which is called leib or labab, within the heart is a treasure. And one treasure easily gets stolen and dissolved, another one grows infinitely. So within the heart is the image of God. We've talked about this many times. Yetzer is the Hebrew word for image or inclination. And in Genesis, when it says that we are made in the image of God, there are two yods, or two Ys. And what the pre-Kabbalistic and Kabbalistic philosophers interpreted that to mean was that there are two inclinations within our hearts. A good, selfless, or divine inclination, which is called the Yetzer HaTov, which is truly the image of God or goodness in us. And then there's an opposing force, because anytime something is emanated or created, as soon as something is emanated or created, there's duality. So there's goodness in us, the opposite must be within us also. And that's the Yetzer Hara, which is the evil, selfish, or lower inclination of materialism, which is personified as Satan or Shaitan in the Christian message. So if we're constantly seeking only material things, this only increases the Yetzer Hara, the selfish, lower inclination in our hearts. It does not create any spiritual evolution. It does not help us to follow the path of Mar Yeshua. It does not help us to have the ecstasy or the bliss of union with God while living or beyond. It is an opposing force. It is a grounding force, like gravity to the earth. So when we only seek treasures on the earth, material things, we're only increasing selfishness. Because why do we want material? I want those things for myself, making myself comfortable, or us four and no more. Mom, dad, kids, dog. There's definitely a barrier of how far I'm willing to give. Because family and kids are usually just extensions of what? Our own ego. So when we seek treasures in the earth, we're only increasing the Yetzer Hara, which takes us away from God, which blocks spiritual understanding, spiritual intuition, inner revelations from spirit that can come to us when we meditate and pray and worship. But treasures in heaven, the treasure or the atzah in our leib, the treasure of our heart, is the essence, the fragrance, the subtle joy of the heart that we develop and hold in the vessel of our hearts. How are those fragrances and essences created? By good thought, good words, and good deeds. It is only when the Yetzer HaTov is predominant within our hearts, our minds, our conscience, through the elimination, or at least some elimination, yet Halakah. It is only then that we truly begin the inward spiritual path, the inward and upward path, the union with God. Let us continue with the liturgy of the Chalice. May we strive to have the true understanding of Kihesh, inward non-attachment. And may Mar Yeshua lead us to union with the supreme consciousness, the Abba.